Hey everyone, welcome back to Brian's Mysteries and Adventures on Trail, and today we are going to be discussing the disappearance of Jordan Naterer, who disappeared sometime between October 10th and 11th, 2020, in the Manning Provincial Park, British Columbia, Canada, which is on the American-Canadian border. Jordan is only 25 years old, and he was first reported missing after he failed to arrive at their Thanksgiving. The Canadian Thanksgiving is different than American Thanksgiving. So his black 2016 Honda Civic was found in the Lightning Lake Day Use area parking lot, which is sort of at the foot of the Frosty Mountain trailhead, which is where he was presumed to be hiking. And unfortunately, from the very beginning, this case was sort of thwarted by the search efforts went out, but they were stopped very soon after they began. And at the family's insistence, which I can totally understand, they were able to get the searches reinitiated and the searchers went back out. But the family eventually had to start basically their own searches, which we'll get into. Jordan is 5 feet 10 inches tall. He's got a slim build, short brown hair. He was last seen wearing black pants, white running shoes, and carrying a large olive green backpack. His bank records indicated that he bought a cup of coffee at the Manning Park Resort, which gave the searchers and the family at least the verification of where he'd been. And before this trip, he had been buying camping gear and kind of preparing for this trip, which was supposed to be just a couple of days. Manning Provincial Park, most commonly known as Manning Park, covers an area of about 323 miles and it lies along British Columbia Highway 3. So the investigators believe that Jordan was injured or possibly had a fall. His parents flew out from Vancouver to obviously help with the search. For 5 days, search and rescue teams from several parts of British Columbia scoured the area by air and on foot. Several volunteers also helped out. However, that on October 17th, 2020, the authorities decided to suspend the search, stating that they had exhausted all their research, their efforts and avenues, and the search was called off. Like I said, the family launched its own private search, and they hired a drone company. They paid for a helicopter. Now, just to give you an idea, this can cost upwards of $10,000 a day. So this is why I'm hoping in the future to be able to, get more involved in these searches, start a nonprofit to help when these kind of searches are just cut off so soon. And I know that there's often limitations and things like that, but this family has done an amazing job by being very methodical with their searches. They created a map, and search and rescue teams did from 3 different districts near Vancouver resumed the search on October 22nd. However, unfortunately, there's been no sign of Jordan, and once again, that search was called off. Jordan apparently was well prepared for the cold weather. He had a tent, a red Tumi jacket, a winter sleeping bag, a sleeping pad. The day that he set out, another hiker claimed to have seen him about 30 to 45 minutes from the Frosty Mountain trailhead. That's the last reported sighting. That's where the main search efforts were centered around. Now, Jordan is a very intelligent young man. He's an engineer by trade, and in my experience, engineers are very good at problem solving and getting in and out of tough situations. So, he definitely had a lot of advantages for him. So it's hard to say what could have happened here, but the family has done just an amazing job keeping this search effort alive. This is some of their maps that they have showed, these areas that they've checked, and the circled areas are the areas that they have yet to check and they still want to search. And I just think that they've done an amazing job keeping these search efforts alive. And obviously this was a few months ago and more snow has fallen, so it's things, as more time passes, we know that the outlook looks harder, and eventually the family did had to fly home. And I can't imagine how hard that is in these situations, because it's just our human nature to hang on to hope. And what my hope is that by keeping these stories circulated in social media, since social media is so big these days, it's just a way to reach so many people at one time. And my hope is by sharing these stories and by keeping them circulated, the more chances that we'll be able to find closure for some of these families. Because the more people that see this and the more people that know about cases they know what to look for, the more chances are that they are possibly solved. Jordan's mom has just been incredibly strong through this. I mean, she was actually injured during one of the search efforts. She suffered some pretty serious injuries, and she just kept saying, like, I'm just bruised and battered. My main focus is finding Jordan. And it's really hard, obviously, with these types of cases. I mean, there's just been no sign of him now. I will say that during the second search, they did find a bag with his sunglasses and a hat, which his mother identified as his items. So they did start the searches around that area. But other than that, there's no sign of him has been found, but they have kept very coordinated efforts of the areas they have and haven't searched. But unfortunately, aside finding the hat and a cell phone ping, which we'll talk about, but the dogs couldn't pick up any scent. There was no footprints or any other sign of Jordan. So here's what we know in this case. On October 10th, Jordan left his apartment on Seymour Street in Vancouver at around 7 a.m. He was wearing a white t-shirt, white trail runners or sneakers, black pants, and he carried a green backpack. At roughly 10:18 a.m., he purchased a park permit in Manning's Resort's front desk and recorded his emergency contact numbers, the color of his tent, and his plan to stay overnight at the Frosty Creek campground. He planned to hike the 27 kilometers Frosty Mountain Loop Trail, which is very popular, especially around that time of year. He was prepared. He had everything he needed for the cold. On that day that he set out, snow actually began to fall around 3 p.m. and visibility worsened by 4 p.m. The last credible witness, as I discussed, saw him 30 to 45 minutes from the Frosty Mountain trailhead. Searchers focused their efforts in the area of the sighting, but when the family obtained cell phone data a few weeks later, it showed a ping at 12:30 p.m. on October 10th, roughly 4 kilometers southeast of Manning Resort on the Windy Joe side loop of the trail, pictured right here. The family believes he may have been started the hike in reverse, traveling Windy Joe to Frosty Mountain so he could get to the campground sooner. But this is speculation and it's hard to say. There are 2 trails that cut along the bottom of Windy Joe Mountain, and they think that he might have tried to find his way along one of those and to head back to the campground once the snow set in. But again, it's hard to say for sure what exactly he did. This has just been pieced together with what evidence they do have, which is the cell phone ping and the hat and sunglasses that they did find on the or near the trail. From what I understand with discussion groups, that for people that have hiked that area, there is minimal cell service in the park, and you usually lose it as soon as you drive in. And it's possible that Jordan's hike took longer than expected, depending on the weather. It depends on which trail he did. The top of the Frosty Trail it's a very steep climb over a boulder field that leads to a long ridge. But most of the trail is wide enough so that you aren't at risk of falling. But of course, that's always a possibility. According to one Reddit user that was actually on the mountain that day, around the same time, he said that he passed a bunch of people. None of them were solo. And he said that the conditions were actually fairly moderate, especially during the first part of the day. And he also said that usually the hike is back and to and from is about 7 to 8 hours. However, he states that it can be done as a loop. There's a turn at the Frosty Ridge line where you can go east to Windy Joe and back to Lightning Lake's parking lot. And most people do that in a 2-day, 2-night hike. So it's really hard to say, unfortunately, in this case, really what Jordan was doing, what his plan was. He didn't really tell anybody directly what his plan was. But as you can see in the pictures, this area is very rugged, it's very mountainous, and if he had suffered a fall or deviated from the path or even just got turned around, it would be very easy to get lost in these woods. According to the search reports, the aircraft actually went in a massive zigzag pattern even outside the boundaries of the park because they feared that Jordan could have possibly wandered outside the boundaries, and that's possibly why they didn't find him. But unfortunately, that didn't turn up anything either, although this is a huge grid that they have searched. The volunteers and the family effort was really quite incredible. Most of the Manning Park area is considered level 2 or fairly difficult hiking, but Jordan seemed to be very prepared. He had the right gear. He's a very smart guy. He had a master's degree from the British Columbia University. What often ends up happening to a lot of people, according to SAR, is they don't have enough clothes, especially a puffy jacket, and the temperature will drop drastically. But Jordan had this. He had a puffy jacket, he had a tent, a warm sleeping bag. So it's hard to say, you know, sometimes if someone gets separated from their pack, that could cause problems, obviously. Or if a storm comes in and you get disoriented, obviously that also can cause problems. And without cell phone coverage, you know, it's almost impossible unless you have an inReach or a spot device, some kind of satellite communicator, which I do highly recommend, especially if you're going out solo, to carry, because it's kind of like having an insurance policy basically for yourself. I can't speak intelligently if he was carrying one. I didn't find that in the inventory of his gear. However, for the most part, it seemed like he was very well prepared. Who knows what happened here? This still is an open, active investigation. Obviously, the searches aren't going on now due to the winter, but if you have any information, please call Michelle at the Vancouver Police Department at 604-717-3939, and they'll be happy to take any information you have, even if you were out on that trail that day. You'd be surprised what information can help. And guys, just please remember that this is a very recent case, and these friends and family members of Jordan could possibly see this video. So I ask you that you please be respectful in the comments if you do leave them. If you have constructive feedback for me, that's fine, but please be respectful in the comments. My main point in these videos is to try and keep these stories alive and circulated so that people are aware of them and they aren't forgotten, and people know what to look for when they're out in the same area. Very often it's hikers, other hikers and campers and people that are out in the wilderness that end up finding clues, gear, and other things. And unfortunately, sometimes they find the deceased hikers. It's just important to keep this information circulated so that people that are going to be in the area hiking know what to look for. Of course, if you do see anything, just don't touch it, take pictures, note the location, and of course contact the authorities immediately. I would just like to send out my thoughts and prayers to Jordan and his family, and wishing you all the best and hoping that you can find closure soon. And yeah, I'd like to dedicate this video to Jordan Naterer and his family and friends. And as always, I will have more information in the description with phone numbers of people you can contact, or email addresses if you have info, as well as links to the GoFundMe page and the Facebook page, or any other info that's relevant for you to possibly help. My thoughts and prayers go out to you, Jordan, and I hope one way or another you can find your way home soon to be back with your friends and family. Thank you everybody for watching. Take care. I just wanted to say thank you to one of my viewers, Helen, for bringing this case to my attention. And also, if there's anybody that has a case that is in their location or someone that they know and they want me to cover it, please send me the information. Reach out to me in the comments and I'll definitely cover the case. And I also wanted to just briefly review, I did talk about this in one of my videos around the holidays, but it was a video that basically no one watched. So I just wanted to reiterate, my channel is not monetized, but YouTube did send out a message around the holidays saying that they have the right now to monetize any channel. So if you see commercials on my channel, it's not me. I'm not monetized, and we need to get to like 3,000, more than 3,000 subscribers to get to that level. And if we do get to that level, as I explained in that video, what I'm going to do is any of the videos covering missing hikers and that kind of thing, the funds, 65% or more, are going to go towards search and rescue efforts. Then another portion of the funds are going to go towards helping the families, create flyers, things like that. And then the small remaining part will go to helping me create better content, and also going to join some of these search efforts. There's a lot of things that I'm working on and trying to get more involved, but I just kind of wanted to talk real quickly about that because, like I said, no one watched that other video, and just wanted to clarify that for anyone that was wondering. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.